Good evening. Welcome. Thank you for joining this evening. Nice to see you all. Okay, let's see. In order that all sentient beings may attain Buddhahood, from my heart I take refuge in the three jewels. In order that all sentient beings may attain Buddhahood, from my heart I take refuge in the three jewels. In order that all sentient beings may attain Buddhahood, from my heart I take refuge in the three jewels. Whatever the virtues of the many fields of knowledge, all are steps on the path of omniscience. May these arise in the clear mirror of intellect. O Manjushri, please accomplish this. Okay, so we continue with our deep dive into the Moonbeams of Mahamudra by Tapotashi Namjo. Tonight we continue with the enhancement section, starting on page 196, 396. Just checking, just kidding. Which is the section on blending equipoise and post-meditative attainment into a healthy juice drink, constant flow day and night by means of that breakthrough. So this follows upon the breakthrough experience, and should be pretty clear from the content of this and last couple of weeks that this section of the text is talking about a very advanced level of experience, and it's one of those examples where we should be careful not to presume that we can do things that are ahead of us, so to speak, or beyond us, but we begin to think about them by studying these sort of descriptions in text like this. So, the constant flow meditation that was explained above blends meditative equipoise and post-meditative attainment during the day, and it will also blend them during the night. The ways to sustain meditative equipoise and post-meditative attainment are, for the most part, as were presented earlier. And the asterisk links to a note that says, see the 321 to 51. Nevertheless, here in the context of a breakthrough, there is some concern that if your applied mindfulness is very rigid, it will arouse experiences and you will then fixate on those experiences. Therefore, when you are mindful, let go of any expectations. Don't even set up the intention to let go. With no fuss or fabrication, and in keeping with the approach that the best relaxation means the best meditation, cultivate not separating meditative equipoise and post-meditative attainment. So those are key instructions, right? Those two things. Let go of any expectations. So we're not hankering after experiences on the path. Not even setting up the intention to let go. And with no fuss or fabrication, two important technical terms. Not fussing and not fabricating. And keeping the approach with the approach that the best relaxation means the best meditation. That's a really cool part. Being able to relax without falling asleep, presumably, is the best meditation. Cultivate not separating meditative equipoise and post-meditative attainment. I think personally I would, if I had some meditative attainment, it would feel very different than my post-meditative experience. And there would be a huge sense of separation between my meditative experience and my post-meditative state of being. So there's a high bar, not separating them. As the Exalted Zhang states, Sounds like some sort of magician or something, doesn't he? Like Zhang from one of those comic book series. The exalted Zhang, like with a black pointy cap. Anyway, Mahamudra meditation does not contain dictates. Do it this way. It has no beginning, middle, or end. Whenever you are mindful, rest relaxed. Now, I could have sworn that Talopa put together a list of do's and don'ts. That was sort of like a dictate. Does anyone remember those? Don't meditate, don't think, don't analyze. But okay, Zhang is saying those are not dictates. Yet, Mahamudra has no beginning, middle, or end. Therefore, there's no way to make it happen, right? Whenever you're mindful, rest, relax. We may wonder if we do that, will we stray into a blank lack of mindfulness and not be meditating, just get really dull? You will not have that problem. So that's the indication that we're in a totally different level here, right? Of accomplishment. You've already had a major breakthrough. Generally speaking, the relaxation that occurs when you're mindful is mindfulness that disrupts fixation, right? When we're mindful, fixations, distractions dissolve. Since remaining in a state free from mental activities is the true mindfulness of the abiding state just as it is, this mindfulness with relaxation is very different from enforced mindfulness or applied mindfulness. And there's a scheme of 4 mindfulnesses that I think we'll come to in the next course. I wonder, it must be in the numerical glossary, right? The 4 thises and that's. No, we don't have the 4 mindfulnesses. That's weird. 4 types of mindfulness. So in 647, the 4 types of mindfulness, Drenpa Ji. Ji is for mindfulness that solidifies or enforced mindfulness. So we just read that this state of being free from mental activities is the true mindfulness of the abiding state, just as it is. And this is very different from enforced mindfulness, which is the first of the 4, and then mindfulness applied to emptiness, or the mindfulness that recognizes. And the word applied was in there, which going back to 397 might be a way of matching it up with the applied mindfulness. So the second type of mindfulness, and then true mindfulness, or mindfulness of unification, thirdly, and then mindfulness that is free from or transcends the intellect. So these are very different than the 4 foundations of mindfulness. And the state being discussed now is very different than the first couple of those that are very much contrived, full of fuss and fabrication, as one might say. As the Shawara explains back on 397 with Mahamudra, where mind doesn't do anything, there's not even an atom's worth of something to meditate on. So don't meditate. This is the supreme meditation, never apart from the actual non-meditation. On the other hand, if your post-meditative mind sometimes lapses into distractions, sometimes, once you apply the mindfulness of post-meditative attainment, you will be aware of the abiding state of all those distractions, and that is sufficient. It's like you flash mindfulness, right? You flash. And if you recover mindfulness, that state is included within the mixing of equipoise and post-meditative attainment, meditative equipoise and post-meditative attainment. This is referred to with the term the constant flow of meditation. We've seen that term nurturing, cultivating a constant flow of meditation, where the two are blended, mixing equipoise and post-meditative attainment. Similarly, constant flow of meditation during the day can be blended with practice at night. When you start to fall asleep, first you will need to apply some effort to fall asleep while doing your daytime spiritual practice of remaining without any mental activities. It's a little, I thought that was a little confusing. Let's see. So while you're doing your daytime spiritual practice consisting of remaining without mental activities, you will have to apply some effort to fall asleep. It's a funny line. If sleep and dreams then arise as the path, that is sufficient. However, while it's possible that will occur, in this context, it won't happen. It won't happen for most people. Therefore, even though your sleep lacks mindfulness and your dreams are diluted, if you recognize their abiding state as soon as you wake up, that is sufficient. This is referred to with the term the constant flow, day and night. We've seen that term as well. So that's what that refers to. As soon as you wake up, you recognize the abiding state of dreams and deep sleep. That's not easily done when we wake up, right? The questions and answers with the exalted Gampopa contains the following exchange. Sounds like a wonderful text to check out, this Q&A with Gampopa and his students. Yogan Choyun asked, when we are not mindful, the essence is not apparent. When we are mindful of our regular thoughts, all our previous thoughts purified or not? Is relentless mindfulness necessary or not? Gampopa replied, as soon as you are mindful of your normal thoughts that were not embraced with mindfulness, they are purified. So after the fact, we can purify thoughts that we had while we weren't paying attention. That's interesting. Gampopa replies, it isn't necessary. I'm practicing going to sleep. It's going to take some effort, though. It isn't necessary for you to be relentlessly mindful. Nevertheless, if mindfulness creates non-distraction, it is helpful as a condition for the mixing of meditative equipoise and post-meditative attainment. Even when you aren't being mindful, thoughts never harm, obscure, or interrupt. And that turns out to be a key factor, is understanding that mindfulness is not interrupted by anything. Thoughts, obscure thoughts of any kind, or emotions, or anything, they don't harm, obscure, or interrupt our mindfulness. Our mindfulness is continuous, whether we're aware of our mindfulness or not, interestingly. He also says, since luminosity is an innate quality during sleep and dreams, that is sufficient. After you wake up, look at whatever was not embraced by mindfulness. So if you had some dreams during the night that were not mindful, you would review those upon waking. By being confident that it is nothing other than luminosity, there is a flowing river of practice. Many of the questions and answers with Gampopa relate to eliminating doubts about these situations too.
Okay, so is he saying here that the content of dreams is irrelevant?
Oh, generally they believe that the content of dreams is irrelevant. That's correct. Not
So why
relevant.
do some teachers ask about the content of dreams?
Yeah, well, some teachers believe that they are relevant, and some believe that there's situations when they are relevant, like famously under Milarepa at one point, and also I think Marpa asks his four main students to remember their dreams a certain night when he's like preparing to empower them with different sets of teachings, and they come back the next morning and they recount their dreams. And this is in the life of Marpa, and he interprets each of the four dreams and says, "You are going to be in charge of my teachings on so on and so forth." But generally, they view dreams as being deluded diversions. Eric.
Um, in the passage where we're saying, hold on, look, after you wake up, look at whatever was not embraced by mindfulness. But is my in a sleep state or dream state, does that mean like anything that wasn't lucid?
That's right. Although, even while you're lucid, like having a lucid dream, you could, it doesn't mean you're mindful, right?
Okay, but is it a prerequisite for being mindful to have the
Yes,
lucidity?
I would say that a lucidity is a prerequisite for being mindful in a dream. And lucidity being the quality of knowing that you're dreaming, right? I think so. I mean, it's possible you could have a dream of meditating. Anybody ever dream of they were meditating?
Yeah.
What was that like? And were you lucid or not?
So long ago, I don't know, but I used to have those
Yeah,
kind of dreams all the time. I mean, not all the
neat.
time, but often anyway. Was I lucid? No, it was just a dream, but I had the
Yeah,
experience of doing sitting practice in the dream.
neat. That's cool. Okay. Many of the questions and answers relate to eliminating doubts. Where am I? Yet many of the questions and answers with Kamboba relate to eliminating doubts about these situations. If you're greatly concerned about whether you have achieved mindfulness or are lost in distraction, your attempt at a breakthrough may be somewhat premature. Yeah, if you're not able to be mindful, basically most of the time, then your breakthrough may not have been a real breakthrough. You have that shows you have not realized the uninterrupted mode of the mind's nature or abiding state. Exalted Kampopa explains, when you are distracted, that's delusion in its usual sense. When you are mindful, the essence is something obtained elsewhere. So, um, well, let's go through them and then go back. Those kinds of things are ignorance involving dualistic phenomena. I don't understand such attaining or strain in meditation. If dualistic phenomena existed, it would make sense to know what to adopt and abandon, and eliminating them would be a mistake on our part. So that's probably a confusing statement, right? So let's see if we can unpack this one. When you are distracted, that's delusion in its usual sense. So that's the starting point. You have to be undistracted. When you're mindful, the essence is something obtained elsewhere. That's the tricky line. What does that mean? Any ideas? The essence is something obtained elsewhere. It's like you've pushed away the recognition of the essence by being mindful, by doing something with your mind. You've created a state of like uh, accepting and rejecting, preference, preferring this and that. And you've missed the point that all mental experiences are meditation, basically. Those kinds of things are ignorance involving dualistic phenomena. So, not through the ignorance of thinking
So
that.
that would be like a statement saying, I'm being mindful. You're just mindful, not mind being mindful.
Yeah, yeah. Right. So it's a fine line between mindful and mindful.
Yeah, I was reading recently the Vijayadhara's Four Foundations of Mindfulness talks,
Mm, mm,
and he was talking about sort of bare attention in the context of one of them.
mm,
And then he went on actually to talk more about that even bare attention is not really quite right. You know, that's not really the ultimate because that's still dualistic.
mm.
And so even in that context of that Four Foundations of Mindfulness, he kind of gave a little segment of the more ultimate view on that, which is the same, I think, as what they're
Mm,
looking at here, that there's still a duality and conceptuality to that.
yeah. Yeah, when you're mindful, the essence is something obtained elsewhere. When you're mindful, it's like you're being on some part of your mental content to the exclusion of other parts of your mental content or your mental faculty or process. And so the essence, meaning the essence of mind as indivisible emptiness and luminosity, eludes you. It doesn't go somewhere else, but you're not experiencing it. Those kinds of things are ignorance involving dualistic phenomena, right? So thinking that there's good and bad, I don't understand such attaining or strain in meditation. So it doesn't make sense to do that activity in meditation. And then, if dualistic phenomena existed, it would make sense to know what to adopt and what to abandon. If there actually were phenomena that were inherently good and bad, then it would make sense to adopt or reject them based on that. And eliminating them would be a mistake on our part because they're real, right? You don't want to eliminate something that's real. I guess. Any other thoughts on why eliminating them would be a mistake? I think that's got to be it. He also says, when what is attained through mindfulness and the delusion created by distraction are simply perceived by the intellect, actually there's nothing to be attained or lost. So these are not external objects. What is attained through mindfulness and the delusion created by distraction, these are not separate from the essence of your mind. So there's nothing that actually can be attained or lost because they're all there already. When you have developed certainty in the breakthrough, continue in that breakthrough state for exactly 5 days without doing anything that involves conceptual characteristics or any other kinds of mental activities. Then take a comfortable break for a day or two or so. Next, alternate between intensifying the breakthrough and taking a break. First for 7 days each, and then for 10 days each. That's an extensive practice. For 7 days, don't lose your mindfulness, right? Alternate between intensifying the breakthrough, and taking a break. Cultivate the breakthrough with your recognition of the abiding state until it continues as a constant flow during the day. So the focus is on the abiding state, meaning, which is the author's term for the essence of mind, or you might say the nature of mind, or like the combined essence nature of mind. Once that happens, once it becomes a constant flow during the day, it will gradually occur at night due to your habituation to it. Once you are very habituated to this, it is said that you will be able to thoroughly mix your practice with both the day and the night. The implication is, until you're able to do that, then you're not able to mix your practice with day and night. So once you are very habituated to this, and the habituated to this refers to cultivating the breakthrough with your recognition of the abiding state. It's the key. The purpose of breakthroughs, having eliminated all dualistic perception, such as there being an object of meditation and a meditator, an object of experience and an experiencer, an object of realization and a realizer, and all fixations and clinging, such as grasping at emptiness. Your aim is to completely let go into the abiding state of the ground. For individuals of the highest or intermediate calibers, the realization of the abiding state that depends on the degree of your training. I'm sorry, I missed something. Realization of the abiding state free from dualistic apprehension will arise in a matter of days. So once you're genuinely there, once we're able to completely let go into the abiding state of the ground, realization of that abiding state, free from dualistic apprehension, will arise quickly. Since that depends on the degree of your training, it does not occur in one set way. Some are unable to give rise to such realizations no matter what. It is explained that they should practice for some time following what was explained previously about cultivating spiritual practice during meditative equipoise and post-meditative attainment. Later on, by meditating in a way that repeatedly dissociates from any clinging, such as grasping at appearances or at emptiness, realization will gradually dawn. When we have a genuine realization of the abiding state, that is the ultimate essence of the Buddha's teachings found in the sutras, tantras, and esoteric instructions. Thus, the approach of this practice tradition is more profound than that of other paths or other lineages. Secondly, the refinement through the conduct that integrates experiences and path, or integrates them onto the path. This has three parts. So what are the experiences? The explanation of the timing and conducts for integrating, okay. The explanation of the universal vital points for integrating experiences into the path, and the explanation of the 6 types of path integration. First, the explanation of the timing and conducts for integrating AI during the path. For generating, all experiences integrating all experiences onto the path. The timing of path integration. Generally, once we see the essence of the conateness of mind itself, the indivisibility of empty luminosity, and specifically once we fully see the essence of the conateness of thoughts and appearances. So this is sort of like everything between the essence of mind and the thoughts and appearances. Most post-meditative mental states and appearances will arise as post-meditative attainment, as long as we are mindful of or recollect our spiritual practices. This is the point at which we should undertake to integrate all that we experience into the path, because until we have recognized the 3 modes of conateness, we are unable to integrate the mind experiencing unsettling circumstances into the path. So this seems to be a key aspect of this stage of the path. Going back to the beginning of that paragraph, once we see the essence of the conateness of mind itself, so once we see the indivisible, empty luminosity of mind itself, and once we fully see the essence of the conateness of thoughts and appearances, so we see that same quality of indivisible emptiness and luminosity of thoughts and appearances, most post-meditative mental states and appearances will arise as post-meditative attainment, as long as we are mindful of or recollect our spiritual faculties. So the spiritual faculties, our spiritual practices. This is the point at which we should undertake to integrate all that we experience into the path, because until we have recognized the three modes of conateness, so the three modes of conateness presumably are the essence, nature, and manifestation, I would say. Did anyone come up with anything else? The three modes. I wonder if they're in the threes. Let's see, three.
They're not. I looked.
Thank you, Debbie. Three types of conateness on page 645. Natural conateness, the conateness of melting bliss, and the conateness of bliss emptiness, or the conateness of mind itself, the conateness of appearances and of thoughts. Okay, so those, until we have recognized the three modes of conateness, it's basically like what he just went through, which is mind itself, thoughts, and appearances. That's the second object, the conateness of mind itself, appearances, and thoughts. Until we've recognized the three modes of conateness, we will be unable to integrate the mind experiencing unsettling circumstances into the path. That's how we fooled you. You were looking for the three modes. The timing of when it is necessary to practice path integration. So, but just to back up that last sentence, so until we've recognized the three modes of conateness, of mind itself, thoughts, and appearances, it's going to be very hard to do. We're going to be unable to integrate the mind experiencing unsettling circumstances. So this whole concept of bringing challenging experiences to the path is going to be a real struggle for us until we realize the conateness of those experiences, right? That makes sense. Okay, the timing of when it is necessary to practice path integration. Although we may have the realization of seeing the essence of mind during meditation, which is one of the three modes of conateness, we may also remain completely ordinary, having succumbed to the lure of the appearances of this life and having rigid fixations to our attachments and our aversions. So we may have a glimpse during meditation, but it hasn't disrupted our post-meditative experience. Our post-meditative experience is not attainment, but is just sort of normal dualistic experience. When our mind is disturbed by intense situations and plagued by concerns, it can be difficult to incorporate those into the path just as they are. We all know that experience, right? When our mind is disturbed by intense situations. When we are comfortable and at ease, we may slip into not noticing our latent thoughts. So these are the two sort of extremes. Like when things are really difficult in our life, it's hard to really experience meditation profoundly. And then when things are really good in life, and we just sort of ease into a sort of easygoing state, like everything's great, and we don't really rouse vividness in our meditation practice. When we're comfortable at ease, we may slip into not noticing latent thoughts. So we have coarse thoughts and latent thoughts. Latent thoughts are the subtle undercurrents, presumably, that, and the latent part means they haven't really blossomed into coarse thoughts. They just gurgle under the surface. When we are, let's see, in brief, if we should undertake path integration when it is difficult to incorporate those states of mind, of difficulties or ease, into the path spontaneously by being mindful of or recollecting our spiritual practice. So for this idea of spontaneously, so it seems like the idea is that if we're not able to sort of pierce this experience of overwhelmingly negative experiences or a positive state of mind that lures us into a sleepy sense of everything is okay, and this complacency. If we're not able to pierce those with basically our mindfulness, then it's going to be very difficult to bring them onto the path, so to speak. Spontaneously by being mindful of them, by being mindful of or recollecting our spiritual practice. And when when our usual thoughts involved with anxieties, our hopes and fears cause our mind stream to be unworkable, which was sort of like intense situations and plagued by concern. So it's a little unclear why he repeats that. In brief, we should undertake path integration when it is difficult to incorporate those states of mind into the path spontaneously by being mindful of or recollecting our spiritual practice, and when our thoughts involved with anxieties or hopes and fears cause our mind stream to be unworkable. Okay, so the timing of when it is necessary to practice path integration is when we're experiencing difficulties or like ease situations, right? Although we may have so going back to the beginning of this paragraph, although we may have the realization of seeing the essence of mind during meditation, we remain completely ordinary and succumb to the lure of normal life experiences. When our mind is disturbed by intense situations and concerns, it can be difficult to incorporate those into the path just as they are. When we're comfortable and at ease, we may slip into not noticing our latent thoughts. In brief, we should undertake path integration when it is difficult to incorporate those states of mind into the path spontaneously by being mindful of or recollecting our spiritual practice, indicating that that's the general technique of path integration, is to incorporate all states of mind into this path spontaneously by being mindful of our spiritual practice. Our spiritual practice is a little bit vague. It's like, what is being mindful of or recollecting our spiritual practice? Presumably remembering the meditative state, like flashing on the meditative state. And when our usual thoughts involve with anxieties and so forth cause our mind stream to be unworkable, that's when we should flash the sense of mindfulness of the meditative state. I think we have Cynthia and then Sue.
Sorry, I just wanted to, I see if you were saying the same way I'm reading it, that the way I was reading it is that when it's difficult to integrate spontaneously, then in that case we have to do it more deliberately by being mindful, blah, blah, blah. This is...
I don't know that those are separate, because he says into the path spontaneously by being mindful of.
Well, okay, I think because he doesn't put a lot of punctuation in here to make it completely clear, I think it's a question of whether you read spontaneously as associated with the first phrase or associating it with the mindful part, the second phrase. Because the way I read it, I was thinking that the ideal is that it happens spontaneously, but when it's difficult, these two difficult situations, and in those cases it's not happening spontaneously, then you have to be applying mindfulness more.
It's unclear.
Right, just wanted to throw that out there as another interpretation, I guess.
Yeah. It's possible the next paragraph will clarify that, but let's see. Sue, what do you have?
Well, I was sort of asking about the same thing in your comment of needing to pierce, and is that, pierce these disturbed, intense states or comfortable states in order to bring them to the path? Is that to be mindful that they're of what they are. Is
Right, mindful of
yeah.
the coordinateness of mind, thoughts, and appearances. Yeah, this I found this
Because
part to be
later in
useful.
the chapter it talks about, the identification of things, but I'll just listen how we go along.
Yeah. So this section, explanation of the timing and conducts for integrating all experiences rather, onto the path. So this is like the lead in to actually bringing like all difficulties onto the path, right? So this is the timing and conduct. Well, let's continue. When we are staying in seclusion, and meditation arises as a constant flow, day and night, i.e., we should engage in conduct that integrates difficulties right with that situation in order to stabilize and enhance our practice. It's a little unclear what conduct that is that he's talking about. If it's not, presumably it's like what he comes into later on. At that time, whenever concerns arise in our mind, they are to be integrated with the path. Otherwise, if we are mindful without distractions during meditative equipoise and post-meditative attainment, we might discard sustaining the natural expressions of the abiding state. And we could end up in one of the deviations described above by applying path integration involving remedies, subversive meditations, and the like, i.e., fussing and fabrication, i.e., that lead us into things like the absorption states, right? Again, not completely clear. He says when we're in seclusion and meditation arises as a constant flow. It seems like there's no difficulty, so it's like we should engage a contact that integrates difficulties. The translator has put in the word difficulties, but we should engage in contact that integrates whatever arises right with that situation in order to stabilize and enhance our practice. So that's when things are going well. At that time, whatever concerns arise in our minds, they should be integrated with the path. Otherwise, if we are mindful without distractions during meditative equipoise and post-meditative attainment, we might discard sustaining the natural expressions of the abiding state. That's the part that's confusing, right? If we're mindful without, it seems like the implication is that we create a mindfulness that only works when there are no distractions.
Another way I'm reading this actually in a way similar to the other one that I was commenting on, but that if we are mindful when there are not distractions, then we're not just being with the natural abiding state.
We're overly
Over-applying. Yeah.
That's possible, yeah. Okay. The timing of when it is necessary to practice path integration. Okay. The timing for engaging in conduct. So the first section is timing of path integration, the timing of when it's necessary to practice path integration. Yeah, not totally clear. The timing for engaging in conduct. It's thought that conduct is to be undertaken once we've achieved heat and signs. I think this section was a little clearer. Heat and signs, I think, refers to the path of joining. That has the 4 stages of heat, peak, patient endurance, and highest worldly dharma. Is what it seems to me. As is stated in the Vajra Tantra, once you have attained some heat, if you want to engage in conduct and wish to become accomplished, undertake the conduct in this way. What way? This way. Let's see what way that is. This practice tradition also says that conduct must be linked with timing. What's the most important thing for a comedian? Timing. Some who have not recognized the essence of their mind undertake conduct when they have had just some kind of shamatha experience. So generally that indicates like path of accumulation, whereas path of preparation is where vipassana experience is emphasized. Practice, experience, and so forth. Others, without even that, wander in charnel grounds and at crossroads for the sake of fame, recognition, and gains. Right. So these are famously activities that are like challenging conduct.
There's a slogan about this, actually. One of the slogans is about this very thing of doing all these, fancy things for the sake of recognition. Obviously, they say not to do it.
Yeah, exactly. They may start out with tenacity, but will later become complacent. They would give up. None of them will enhance their spiritual practices authentically. So this is not helpful. They have to be done at the right stage, which is after you have attained some heat. None of them, let's see, because they neither recognize the essence of their thoughts, which are what are to be integrated into the path, nor recognize the abiding state of their mind, the place where integration occurs. The mind is a place. Sue.
I'm sorry. We've been talking about timing and now conduct, but what are we talking about? I'm
Yeah, well, let's back
like,
up a
in
little
terms
bit.
of conduct, it's talking about it, but it doesn't say what they're talking about.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
Okay.
A few more
But
paragraphs.
yeah, we'll see a whole list of different types of conduct. But maybe it'd be helpful just to glimpse quickly at the outline of the text. So if you go to the very beginning of the book and we look at Roman numeral 19, X, I, not X. Actually, the page before, XVIII, enhancement at the bottom. Conduct that, concluding that mind is unborn, breaking through to the unborn transparency. The meaning is term breakthrough. So there's some sort of realization that occurs as a breakthrough. What constitutes the breakthrough? Looking at the essence of mind. The actual breakthrough to the union, to the unborn transparency of mind, and then blending equipoise and post-meditative attainment into a constant flow day and night by means of that. So then refinement through the conducts that integrate all experiences onto the path. So we're refining the breakthrough. It's like the breakthrough generally happens like in meditation, where things are chill, right? We're having, a set situation and people aren't attacking us and nobody's yelling at us and we're not getting fired and protests and things like that, right? So then instead of like maintaining that calm situation, we actually enhance the breakthrough by placing it in difficult circumstances in order to enhance the breakthrough, sharpen the breakthrough, and thereby bring those experiences, bring those challenging circumstances onto the path. Meaning, like bring them, cultivate the ability to experience them without being, without falling into duality and so forth by those experiences, right? So refinement through the conducts that integrate all experiences into the path has three parts on this page: the explanation of the timing and conducts, which is what we're going through, the explanation of the universal vital points for integrating all experiences, and then the explanation of the 6 types of path integration. So this is what's going to be integrated: integrating thoughts into the path. And then they have little phrases that sort of explain sort of their essence. integrating mental afflictions into the path, the instructions for transforming poison into amrita. The first one was turning bad omens into auspicious ones. They're a little reminiscent of the Lojong slogans, right? Integrating god demons into the path. And sort of like the four Maras, things like that are like brought all together here. The instructions for converting obstacles into cities, integrating suffering into the path, the instruction of bodhicitta, integrating illness into the path, the instructions for equalizing the elements, integrating death into the path, the instructions that point out the mother and child dharmatas. Those are the lights, the wisdoms, mother and child wisdoms. And then after that, if you turn the page, then we have the realization and the four yogas. So breakthrough is like a breakthrough experience, and then we intensify it and stabilize it by challenging it, by putting it through like fire, like, right? It's sort of like testing trial by fire, and then actually making that realization firm with subjecting it to challenging circumstances. It then results in genuine transformation, which occurs in the process as described by the four yogas of Mahamudra, of one-pointedness, simplicity, one taste, and non-meditation. Debbie.
As you saw on types and modes, I'm a kind of a literal person.
Good.
And the use of the word conduct, I have a question kind of going off of Sue's question, because to me, the way we're talking about conduct is really not conduct in my common English vernacular as if it were behavior. It feels more like an approach in my practice. I mean, in my sitting. It doesn't feel like a conduct, like a behavior at all.
Yeah, so far I agree with you. I think it'll change when we go into these six. But yeah, it's not like active conduct. we're not in active duty yet. We're like in basic training.
I mean, it
Still,
doesn't even feel like posture or
right.
yoga.
Yeah, well, so far it's been pretty vague, right? Let's see if the remainder of this sort of, it's like this preparatory section, and then we launch into actual conduct. See if this clarifies itself, both what the preparation is and or the six, what we would think of more as conduct in a common sense. Okay, so we're on, I think, page 401. Right after the little quote, once you have attained samhita, the practice tradition also says that conduct must be linked with timing. Some who have not recognized the essence of their mind. So we read through this. Let's see. The purpose of conduct. So if you engage in conduct before you're ready for it, it not only doesn't work, it actually degrades your breakthrough. And you have a few examples of actual, what you might call conduct, of wandering charnel grounds and hanging out at crossroads are two of the sort of traditional conducts that challenge our state of mind. Charnel grounds are terrifying, and crossroads are incredibly chaotic and fast-paced. The purpose of conduct is not undertaken simply for the sake of taking sense pleasures as the path. So one might think, okay, now that I have a breakthrough, now I can go enjoy myself as part of the path. And this is saying that is not the idea. It is done to equalize the taste of mental stability and wavering as the essence of dharmata. The equal taste is the essence of dharmata, the equal taste of those two states of mind, stability and wavering. As the Havadra explains, the explanation of conduct that employs an intimidating form was not given so that you could indulge in hope and fear, whatever. His purpose is to see if your mind is one that wavers or is stable. Okay, then the actual conducts in the Vajrayana, the Father Tantras. So we have three sets of texts that are known as Tantras, are divided into three segments, three groups, based on the emphasis of which of the three root poisons is being focused upon. Father Tantras is aggression, Mother Tantras is passion or desire, attachment, and Father, Mother, and non-dual is ignorance. So the Father Tantras present three types of conduct: elaborate, unelaborate, and very unelaborate. The Mother Tantras also present three types. So we're going to go through, we have just like a litany of different types. It doesn't really add much. Secret conduct, conduct of discipline, conduct that is victorious in all directions. That's what we need now, right? In the seven city texts, these collections of Mahamudra texts that we've seen reference to over and over again, and the sixfold essence cycle, these are the two most famous collections, and the third most famous is is the collection of texts by the seventh Karmak, I think it is, that Karl Brunhold. So it's translated, which includes the seven city and sixfold essence cycle texts. Four types of conduct are mentioned: excellent, secret, hidden, conduct of discipline with awareness, and conduct that is victorious, again, in all directions. Furthermore, other enumerations are taught, such as the four types of conduct: the conduct for beginners, conduct of mastering wisdom, conduct of greatly mastering wisdom, and conduct of liberation. So far, these are all just like not very helpful names that don't really tell us what they're talking about. So the practitioners are also secret mantra practitioners, which is an interesting thing to say, that which sort of indicates that one can engage in this level of Mahamudra practice without being what he's calling secret mantra practitioner, which we would call like a practitioner of creation and completion stage practices that are described in the Father and Mother Tantras. Practitioners are also those sword, i.e. secret mantra practitioners with a connection to the profound instructions of the generation and perfection, or creation and completion processes. It is clear that those conducts may also be suitable as conducts for them as Mahamudra practitioners, because those texts, as well as the Dohas of the great Brahman Saraha and the Mahamudra texts of the Lord Shawaripa, Virupa, and Tilopa, teach those types of conducts in those texts. So they're all mixed together. However, that is interpreted in this practice tradition as follows. In keeping with the Kala Chakra systems, the most virtual prohibition of conduct involving desire for those observing monastic vows, practitioners observing monastic vows must not transgress their training when undertaking conduct to enhance their meditation. So I guess he's saying there are some limitations to the engagement in conduct as formal practice, where if you're a monk, you don't engage in killing and sexual activity and so forth, or consuming intoxicating substances. Virtual prohibition of conduct involving desire for those observing monastic vows. Practitioners observing monastic vows must not transgress their training when undertaking conduct to enhance their meditation. Explain that this prohibition applies to just the secret conduct, since the excellent conduct, the unelaborate, very unelaborate conducts, and the conduct that is victorious in all directions are already harmonious with the intent and vows of monastics. So those other types of conduct are not in contradiction to the monastic conduct. So it just applies to secret conduct, whatever the hell secret conduct is. The locations when conduct is undertaken in pleasing and comfortable place, such as monasteries or villages, the external and internal interdependent connections are not complete. In other words, that's not the right location. Powerful thoughts and mental afflictions don't come up in our mind in such places, and without those, we don't have anything challenging to integrate into the path of Mahamudra. This is actually like sort of made me like remember once again like the world that Trungpa Rinpoche created with all of its challenging characteristics. For the most part, our mind will just remain at ease in a state of laziness and idleness. What an interesting way to characterize practitioners who reside in monasteries or very peaceful villages. Even though we meditate for many years or throughout our, i.e., entire lifetime, our meditation won't be effective, right on the spot when it's challenged on the spot. When we're happy at leisure, our cultivation of spiritual practice is something we do on the side. This interesting comment, which I think we're all familiar with, is there's this tendency in our lives when things are going really well, spiritual practice is like less important. And when things are difficult, to a certain degree, then spiritual practice becomes very important. And when things are really difficult, it's like forget about it, right? But that's when you actually practice conduct of bringing difficulties to the path. Let's see. Therefore, it is said, but if a situation involving mental afflictions arise, we find that we are pulled into an ordinary state. Therefore, it is said that spending just 1 month practicing secret conduct, mixing that with the situations we encounter in dangerous places with difficult terrain, is more effective for enhancing meditation than meditating for 3 years in villages or monasteries. So the conclusion is that we've developed a special program, a month-long program, where we will go into extenuating circumstances and all learn how to bring conduct onto the path. Consequently, we should go to terrifying and forbidding mountain peaks or mountain hermitages, dangerous places where the magical displays of non-humans appear, scary and frightening charnel grounds with corpses and skeletons, the base of a solitary tree that is controlled by nagas, evil spirits and the like, abandoned towns and crossroads where hungry ghosts and demons gather, and other such places. We should begin with the practice of the offerings and generosity of a kusali. A kusali famously is a sort of a specific type of yogi who only does 3 things: eat, sleeps, and goes to the bathroom, shits. Then give up ordinary conversation and undertake the practice of conduct. So that was a little intense. The confidence needed to undertake conduct. The early Kadampa masters teach that we need 5 qualities while wandering in mountain hermitage: a lack of hypocrisy in our ethical behavior, the ability to withstand adverse circumstances through applying remedies, proficiency with the oral instructions, 4, the ability to restore health through our faith. I like that one. That one really struck a chord with me. The ability to dispel subtle harms through our own abilities. These are not minor cities, or maybe they are minor cities, but they're significant. They're cities. The Exalted Tenpopa explains you need these 4: confidence in your oral instructions, confidence in your own abilities, confidence in your experiences, and confidence in the view. And this is like Mingyur Rinpoche, like leaving the monastery, right, for 4 years and just wandering and being with no guarantee of like getting food and shelter or being safe or whatever. He bravely did this amazingly. The Mahasiddha Zhang, who was previously the miraculous, the exalted Zhang, teaches when on your own you are proficient with your oral instructions, are unaffected by the hordes of external and internal maras, and can maintain pure ethical conduct without hypocrisy, then wander alone in mountain retreats. So those are it's a pretty high bar before you go into solitary mountain retreats. The actual conduct has 5 modes. Conduct like that of a wounded deer. But wounded deer don't associate with others in the herd and withdraw their minds, remaining apart. Similarly, you should act alone, be a loner, having given up close companions, and withdrawing your mind from the concerns of this life, such as subjugating your enemies, caring for your friends, and keeping up good relations with your patrons. Just like ditch everything and be like a total loner. Don't answer your emails, don't answer your texts or your phone. That'll happen pretty quickly. Lion-like conduct. Lions are untroubled by other groups of animals, be they wild herbivores or carnivores. Similarly, do not be afraid of the obstacles presented by any situation, whether they be external ones created by humans or non-humans, or internal ones, such as the movements of thoughts. Conduct like the wind blowing through an open space, just as the wind blows through the open space fluidly, transparently, and without being obstructed by objects. Let your mind be transparent and open without any attachment or clinging to your body, possessions, pleasures, gain, or fame. I like that one. So let your mind be transparent and open without any attachments or clinging. So in other words, you don't have like opinions and preferences and like judgments of any kind. It's just like stuff comes up like we see in the news, just like goes through you without any impact. For space-like contact, just as space without support, you should not hold on to any reference point, such as thinking, I'll do this today, or I'm going to do that. No to-do lists, okay? And should not have any object of meditation, such as those with characteristics or those without characteristics. 5th, conduct like that of a crazy person. In the same way that someone insane has no fixed reference points, you should have no fixations, no affirming or adopting something positive, and no negating or rejecting what is wholesome, unwholesome. Got to be a little careful with that one, that you don't get picked up and put in a loony bin. But Sue.
I just was wondering how people like these, because I totally resonated with these, and they just
Yeah, these are
followed me
pretty
around.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah,
when are
they
you
were
going to do
so
them?
familiar to, like our ways, and it's really neat how it goes together with the confidences, because if you have certain, confidences, then
Yeah,
you respond in these different ways, and
yeah, they
I just thought
definitely
they
go
were
together.
terrific.
The 5 confidences and then the actual conduct. So Debbie, you have some actual
Oh,
conduct here, right?
no, it's still view. To me, this is,
Oh, you want like concrete things like
I mean,
build
it's okay.
towers,
I
or
don't need that, but
you're just
this is
curious?
amplifying view. That it's just all the path. It's amplifying conateness. It's just. I mean, that's okay. It's good, but it's
You're
view.
not complaining. You would call it something else instead of conduct. Okay. It is taught that those 5 modes of conduct are the means by which we can take whatever situations and appearances occur as the path and enhance our practice of the abiding state. B. So let's see. A was the explanation of the timing and conducts for integrating, and this has 3 parts. This section, so we'll have A, B, C. The timing and conducts, the universal points for integrating, and then the 6 types of path integration. So now B, the explanation of universal points for integrating all experience into the path. In this context, what we integrate into the path are our normal thoughts of something perceived and a perceiver. That gets pretty basic. That's pretty much everything, which are obscured by ignorance because they are what drag us down in samsara. As the Vairochana Abhisambodhi states, thoughts, great ignorance, are what plunges into the ocean of samsara. When we do not lapse into regular thinking and we integrate our thoughts into the path using the key instructions, they arise as the essence of wisdom and purify samsara. As the Vajrasattva says, concepts purify concepts. That's a very interesting phrase, because other places in the Dharma we see the statement, you can't overcome concepts with concepts. And existence purifies itself. The great Brahmana Isaraha declares the great wisdom of thoughts dries up the ocean of samsara. Naropa and Maitripa in one voice together at the same time proclaim thoughts free in themselves are great wisdom. And they were jointly the gurus to Marpa, the translator. Naropa was the sort of secret mantra tantra teacher, and Maitripa was the Mahamudra. We may think it was said previously that pointing out thoughts to be the Dharmakaya is sufficient. Now what? If that's the case, why is it necessary to again integrate them into the path? Weren't they already turned into Dharmakaya? It is possible that some instantaneous type practitioners are always liberated by just that, i.e. the pointing out instruction. So some very few advanced individuals, it's like boom, there. However, most practitioners will need to penetrate the vital point by again integrating thoughts into the path. When you are cultivating mindfulness of your spiritual practice, it may be that most subtle thoughts are purified as wisdom. However, some coarse thoughts during that meditation and most of the thoughts of your post-meditative mind will not be purified in your practice. This was very interesting, was that we purify the subtle thoughts. It may be that most subtle thoughts are purified when you're cultivating mindfulness. However, coarse thoughts during meditation and most of the thoughts of both types in your post-meditative mind will not be purified in your practice. Moreover, in the midst of unrestrained thoughts, you will be able to do little more than bring those thoughts into meditation for a few short, fleeting moments. And having lapsed into regular thinking, you then may stray further by sealing those thoughts with a theoretical understanding, thinking, this is the Dharmakaya, this is wisdom. It is explained that during the phase of freedom from elaborations meditation, although subtle thoughts arise as the Dharmakaya through undistracted mindfulness itself, powerful thoughts of desire, aggression may not arise fully as the Dharmakaya. Those have so much energy and intensity to them, and fixation at their root, right? During the phase of freedom from elaboration, so that's the second of the four yogas, although subtle thoughts arise as the Dharmakaya through undistracted mindfulness itself, powerful emotions still don't turn into the Dharmakaya that easily. Even during one taste, the third of the four yogas, thoughts that are stirred up by intense situations may not become part of your spiritual practice. So very intense situations can still challenge somebody on the path of, on this level of one taste. Since that can happen even for those who have reached elevated states of meditation, which sort of goes without saying. If you're on the path of one taste, you've already had some elevated states of meditation. It is important to integrate thoughts into the path, which is basically what the whole fourth path is. The path of familiarization or meditation is bringing the post-meditative state into harmony with the meditative state. Nowadays, some see something of the essence of meditation early on, and they meditate for many years, but being unable to progress, they become discouraged. That was a very interesting statement. It's like early on we have pointing out instruction, and we gain some glimpses of the nature of our mind, and then years later, it's like we're still in the same place. That happens because they did not grasp the vital point of path integration. They thought, oh, just meditate on that glimpse over and over and over again. But they didn't bring the rest of their lives, path integration, into their practice, right? Bringing our difficulties in work and relationships and society and all that weird stuff that happens outside of meditation. For these reasons, new meditators and great meditators alike must be skilled in the vital points of path integration and greatly value it. Its vital point depends on being skillful in cultivating the stream of mindfulness within a specific context, such a specific context as the exalted Drikungpa Jigten Sumgun points out. My children, if I summarize everything, will be nothing other than this. What is it? If you are skilled in being mindful, you are skilled in meditation. We're back to mindfulness as being like the end all and be all. He continues, in yoga's river, flowing river, undistracted mindfulness is crucial. Since all forms of path integration are variations of integrating thoughts into the path, the root of all path integration is integrating thoughts with the path. I felt like that sentence was a little bit repetitive. That's a little bit of a challenging sentence. I think we should ask about that sentence. Since all forms of path integration are variations of integrating thoughts into the path, the root of all path integration is integrating thoughts with the path. Okay, in the same way that if we know that one reed is hollow, we know that all reeds are hollow, we should know that all specific instances of thoughts are the same. With this point in mind, the exalted Gampopa primarily taught integrating thoughts into the path as the Dharmakaya and considered that to include all other instances of path integration. It's not that Gampopa did not teach the 6 types of path integration that are found in the practice tradition these days. So we're actually going to go through the 6, but it's basically most texts on Mahamudra and Dzogchen go through these sections of like pointing out nature of mind and then experiencing it as like breakthrough, how to sustain that, and then how to bring these 6 onto the path. And so in particular, there's these 2 wonderful books called The Heart Treasure of the Enlightened Ones, which is a commentary by Khyentse Rinpoche and a very short text by, I believe, Patro Rinpoche on the 6-syllable mantra of Avalokiteshvara.
Can you say that again, please?
It's called The Heart Treasure of the Enlightened Ones. Wonderful book. And he does the same scheme, and he goes through that same trajectory that I just described. And then there's another book called Vivid Awareness, which is Trungpa Rinpoche's commentary on a root text called something like Bringing All Experiences to the Path by Khenpo Gongshar Rinpoche, who was one of Trungpa Rinpoche's 2 root gurus and the one that really pushed him into sort of crazy wisdom type activity. And that one also has the same scheme that I just described. Let's see. Gampopa's teachings called Esoteric Instructions on the 5 Nails, which were written down as notes by his carpenters, contain instructions on integrating obstacles into the path, illness into the path, death into the path, mental afflictions into the path, thoughts into the path, and severing the 4 demons, which is the translation of the 4 Maras, which Trungpa Rinpoche taught, which is integrating God demons into the path. Furthermore, he discussed these in various places throughout his precious collected works. Later, certain of the exalted Rinpoche's esoteric instructions were extracted as a treasure, that is, were discovered as hidden teachings, which is an interesting little tidbit of like Rinpoche. He was sort of overlooked, and he was like a little bit outcast, not as the main carrier of the teachings of Milarepa. And so it's unclear to me, at least, whether this was saying that they were literally buried or figuratively buried and then rediscovered, because we know the terma is of those types. Sometimes it's literally in the earth, and sometimes it's like placed in the mind stream of an individual. Anyway, these were discovered as hidden teachings by the exalted Sampagare and became greatly renowned in the glorious Drukpa system under the name Equal Taste. Sampagare being the progenitor of the Drukpa Kagyu. There are 3 vital points essential to all path integrations. I was thinking, I would like make a huge sign with these three on them and post it, like tape it to the front of a hat that I would wear so that I could like, it would be in front of my eyes wherever I went at all times. First, identify thoughts. No matter what good or bad situations occur, how they appear, start with recognizing thoughts and not just letting things be as they are. So when things get ornery, recognize your reactive thoughts, right? In the middle, I don't know what the middle is the middle of, but let go of any sense of self. That's easy, just let go of sense of self, no problem. Whatever arises, do not distort it by having attachment or aversion towards it, or by trying to block or establish it. Give up the entanglements of a belief in a self. Without seeing or holding anything as problematic or meritorious, rest right with that thought without being affected by the intellect. In the end, avoid the difficult passages of hope and fear. Do not entertain hopes or fears, such as hoping that by practicing in that way, something will happen, or fearing that nothing will, or hoping that things will manifest as the path, or fearing that they won't. Even if subtle thoughts involving hopes or fears come up, let go without fabrication or contrivance, right within whatever occurs, and be set free without clinging. We should be aware of these three modes in all instances of path integration. Amazingly powerful, profound instructions. So, we're about out of time. I thought this was a better place to stop than page 410, which was in the syllabus and the reading for this, so that next week or two we can go through these 6 types of path integration, which brings us to the end. So we have 2 more classes left. One was a review, and we may end up spilling over into that. We'll see. But just to review, at first identify thoughts, then let go of any sense of self, any sense of identification with your thoughts. So see your reactive patterns, let go of any sense of identification with your reactive patterns, and then let go of any sense of expectation or ambition or striving in regard to the whole situation, right? Any final comments before we close? At least here we're getting a little more clear, right? That earlier part was a little weird, the timing of the integration. Mary Beth, sorry.
Well, just going back to the bit about conduct, I felt like, and I don't think I've noticed this before, this happening, but like I felt like that just describes my impression of Rinpoche, not having known him, that he did all this.
Yeah, that is the impression that one gets, one comes away with. And you're talking, I think, about the conduct, the 5 conducts on 403 to 4.
Yeah, well, just this whole idea of conduct and him being a person who was like so realized that he could do conduct.
Right, that he could actually do path integration conduct.
Yeah.
Yeah, this way. Yeah, that is certainly what it seemed like, was that that was his practice, was path conduct. He didn't like do formal practice, he didn't like get up and meditate every day. But it seemed like this was his way of, this was his activity, definitely. Any other comments? Thank you for that. Sue.
Well, I know you said that this is very advanced, but in some ways, these 3 vital points really kind of remind me of Rinpoche's meditation instruction.
Yeah, it's the most basic
it seems like this is
instruction.
what we've been practicing.
Yeah, it sure does.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it seemed like exactly what I gave a couple of talks at our recent retreat, and one of them I talked about working with reactive patterns, emotional patterns, based on a presentation in Ken McLeod's book, Wake Up to Your Life. Wonderful chapter on that. And he has like basically the same 3 steps. It's like, how do we work with our mind? It's very fundamental. Someday we'll come back to this whole thing of timing and conduct, which was rather confusing, that one section. Shall we end? Okay, let us conclude. By this merit may all attain omniscience, may defeat the enemy wrongdoing from the stormy waves of old age, sickness, and death from the ocean of samsara. May I free all beings by the confidence of the golden sun of the great east. May the lotus garden radiance wisdom bloom. May the dark ignorance of sentient beings be dispelled. May all beings enjoy profound, brilliant glory. Oh my God, did you just see the news? I just got Jane just popped her head and said Donald Trump died of a heart attack.
What? You lying.
April Fool.
You had that up your sleeve.
I've been doing that one all day long. Well, everyone, take care and hands off. See you next week.